We live in an era where endurance is a liability and efficiency is a king. Audiences don't want the hero's journey anymore. They want the optimizer's journey. They want to speed run through life, biohack their sleep, drop ship their way out of the middle class and bypass the messy middle of actually having to learn a lesson. And Hollywood knows this. And Hollywood's terrified of the struggle. They look now at an audience addicted to 30-second dopamine hits, endless doom scrolling, and instant boba tea gratification, and assume that we have absolutely zero patience for a protagonist who takes the long way round. Today we need to talk about why the modern blockbuster is treating narrative like a fast travel mechanic, why competence is the new superpower, why at the end of the day we might just need to let the kids have their moment.
Getting old sucks.
The traditional hero's journey requires a crucible. It requires the belly of the whale. You have to fail, you have to bleed, and you have to sit in the swamp on Dagobah complaining about power converters before you earn the right to lift your X-Wing. But now look at modern blockbusters. Look at Rey in Star Wars. She doesn't have an arc, she has a highlight reel. Watching her navigate the sequel trilogy after watching Luke before, it feels like watching someone run New Game Plus with all the endgame weapons already unlocked in their inventory. Studios are confusing momentum with pacing. They are terrified that if the hero isn't instantly hyper competent, we're going to switch off, go back to our phones. And look, it's not just characters, it's actors and the stories around them themselves. Yeah, let's talk about Timothée Chalamet again. Look, he's talented, but he's trying to speedrun prestige. He's trying to brute force his way to legacy status, oscillating between massive IP like Dune and calculated Oscar bait without putting in the ugly, gritty, mid-budget sweat equity. Compare and contrast that to DiCaprio. Leo didn't start at the finish line. He earned his stripes the hard way. He spent the early 2000s actively seeking out the most brutal crucibles Hollywood had to offer. He went toe-to-toe with Daniel Day-Lewis in Gangs of New York, which is the acting equivalent of walking face-first into a cinematic meat grinder and living to tell the tale. He completely dissolved his own ego to master a notoriously difficult Rhodesian accent in Blood Diamond.
That was decapitated and hung from a hook in the bone. Boo-hoo, right?
He bled out in elevators for Scorsese, and he ate raw bison in the freezing mud. DiCaprio built his legacy on friction, failure, and taking massive risks in unapologetically dirty roles. Chalamet is trapped in an industry that doesn't make those movies anymore, leaving him as DiCaprio 2.0, the perpetual bridesmaid trying to endgame the system without ever having to get his hands legitimately dirty. And it's not just actors looking for shortcuts, it's the studios. How do you sell fictional stakes when the actual real-world news cycle feels like a dystopian script? When the globe is being run by a spray-tan supervillain with a penchant for chaotic decrees? Hollywood currently has two very wildly different, heavily panicked solutions to this problem. Solution 1, Marvel, $200 million panic button. Instead of putting in the grueling multi-movie legwork again to build a new antagonist, they hit the break glass in case of emergency switch and brought back Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. Well, that's what the marketing is telling us. It's not storytelling, it's weaponized nostalgia. Multiverse fuckery is the ultimate cheat code. It lets studios completely bypass the heavy lifting of narrative struggle and skip straight to the dopamine hit of a familiar face. Solution 2, James Gunn, DC Studios head, and his Superman movie from 2025. James Gunn actually understands the assignment. He realised an invincible god is profoundly boring unless his worldview is violently stress tested, so he dragged the red and blue through the geopolitical mud.
Superman.
He threw Superman into a hopelessly cynical world of political gridlock and government intervention, effectively telling the audience, we're going to watch this guy suffer for his morality, so you actually care when he finally smiles. he leaned into the mess. And there is a third option. Right now, the golden child of cinema, Project Hail Mary. But let's be honest, Lord & Miller delivered a fantastically constructed movie that actually has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's like a miracle nowadays. No post-credit sequences, but fundamentally it is peddling the most seductive, naive fantasy of the modern era. Technocratic escapism, pure competence porn, and of course we love it because it perfectly mirrors our modern neurosis. We are in a culture obsessed with high performance, like the Jake Humphrey podcast, worshipping people who take 4 AM ice baths, optimise their REM sleep, and I'm entirely convinced wipe back to front to save a few seconds per bathroom trip to compound their lifetime return on interest. We want a clean, highly efficient solution to everything. Although the back to front wiping is not so clean. Project Hail Mary gives us exactly that. It relies on the wildly hilarious assumption that if an extinction level event appears, humanity will instantly hold hands, forget about global debt, erase borders, and efficiently science our way to survival together. Yay! But it completely bypasses the actual struggle of modern existence. There's no gridlock bureaucracy, no cable news networks calling the astrophagy a hoax. It turns science into a magic wand to distract us from the absolute shite show that humanity is currently in. It is the anti-Don't Look Up. And it's incredibly easy for me to sit here, dismantle the technocratic fluff of Project Hail Mary and hold it to the rigorous standards I've built up over 4 decades of loving cinema. But there is a terrifying maturity in asking a simple question. Is it just my age and mileage showing? Lord & Miller are in their 50s. They have the 12 to 20-year-old Reddit crowd eating out the palm of their hands. Why? Because they don't talk down to them. They understand that a generation raised on Minecraft and algorithmic problem solving views competence as the ultimate emotional payload. To a jaded, cynical 40-something-year-old, Project Hail Mary is a highly polished remix of tricks I've seen a dozen times before. To a 16-year-old, it's ground zero. They haven't seen a dozen utopian sci-fi films crash and burn. To them, there isn't a naive distraction from real-world doom. It's a sudden, thrilling spark of hope that maybe intelligence and teamwork actually means something. Look, the hero's journey might be too 20th century for our current culture, speedrunning its way to burnout. The slow burn, the earn struggle. Look, we have to rely on the blank check auteurs like Christopher Nolan, Ridley Scott to give us that now. But maybe that's okay. Maybe the healthiest way to engage with pop culture as we get older is to recognise that some movies are just moments. Recognising a movie as a moment isn't a cop-out. It means I can critique structural flaws, acknowledge the cheat codes, and still be genuinely thrilled that an exhausted, terrified younger generation found a masterpiece that gives them joy. And let's be brutal for a second, saying you just love it anyway is a massive cop-out. The actual highest form of appreciation is knowing when a movie isn't built for you, appreciating it for exactly what it is, and actively choosing to lower standards. It's the conscious, entirely egoless decision to look at a highly polished, dopamine-fueled piece of technocratic fast food and admit, this doesn't pass my decades of cinematic stress testing, but it hits the exact spot for the kid eating it. You don't have to demand a Michelin star steak every single time just to validate your own cinematic literacy. Sometimes, let's let the kids enjoy their burger.
Would you like to know more?
Movies, popcorn.